Fixing the Colorize filter in Adobe Photoshop. Welcome back to the Visual Center. A while back, I made this video introducing a new filter called Colorize, which is part of Adobe's new neural filters. These are filters that utilize Adobe Sensei to apply different effects. Well, when I made the video, the filter was still in beta. Now it's not. And a lot of you have been asking us questions about what to do if it doesn't work properly. Here's some tips. First, and this is paramount, it's important that we don't think of this filter as an end result. We don't have a one-stop button for Colorize. Just like most of the tools and techniques in Photoshop, Colorize is a step. It's a tool that gets us closer to where we want to be. With that said, let's jump into the tool and see what we can do. To start, I'll be using this photo. At this point, I've made sure my image is black and white and in RGB mode, not grayscale. I've also gone through and done some touch-up. You want to make sure you go through and do your retouching first before you apply the Colorize. It'll just make things easier for you. Now let's add the neural filter. Up in the menu system, filter, neural filters. Then we'll flip the Colorize switch. If this is your first time using Colorize, you might get this little cloud icon, meaning that you need to download the filter first, but once it's installed, you can just flip the little switch. Depending on the speed of your computer, this could take a second. And now we have a colored image. But you can see that it's not perfect, specifically in his clothing. And this is probably where the Colorize filter messes up the most, is in clothing. It's really splotchy. You got blues over here, some red splotches, some tans. This is my son. If I remember correctly, I believe the shirt was yellow. So it didn't get anywhere close to what the original color was. Now, I don't have to pick the original color. I can pick something else if I want to, but we'll go over that in a second. What the Colorize filter really does well is with skin tones. Skin tones, it does a great job for the most part. Sometimes it has trouble with teeth, like if teeth are showing. Sometimes the red from the lips can bleed into the teeth, almost like they got lipstick on their teeth or something. But we have a few options to start fixing things, so let's take a look. To start, we have these controls that I mentioned last time to help control the overall color cast of the image. You have things like the saturation or the color balance channels, so cyan to red, magenta to green, yellow to blue. You can mess with these to kind of balance things out if you need to. But something they didn't have before when it was in beta was the option to change the automatic color choices in the image preview. This allows you to change the colors that Photoshop generated, such as in the clothing colors. What you do first is go up to this preview, and you need to drop a pin on the area that you want to adjust, like here on the shoulder. If I just click there, it's going to drop a pin, but first it wants me to pick a color. So let's say I wanted to change him into a green shirt. I can come down here and select this green and click OK. And it's going to try and auto detect where it thinks I want that green. And so you can see it's starting to go around the edge of the sleeve there and try to keep it just in the clothing, which is great. But as further we get over here, it's not green anymore. So we might want to try dropping another pin. So I can just click over here, wait for it to update and see how things go. And I can just keep dropping pins, and it might start to get a little difficult at this point. So this method is still not perfect. You can see there's issues where the green is kind of bleeding into the skin tone on the elbow over here as well. So this method does have its limitations. Now, if the color you picked wasn't quite what you wanted, or if later you want to make changes, you can very easily do that by selecting the pin and changing the color. So I would select this pin, click on the color down here, and then I can just pick a different color. Let's say I wanted to try and get it back to the original yellow. Okay, maybe something like that. And click over here. The thing is, we're going to want to use the same color on all the pins. So let me copy this. I'm copying the hexadecimal code down here. Click on this, and then I can paste the code onto this pin and use the exact same color. You can even move the pin if your initial click didn't quite hit the mark. Let's say I was a little too low on this one. I could bring this one up here a little bit. Maybe move this one over. Maybe move it back because I just revealed some red. And you can keep moving and adjusting them as you need. Now, one downside to using this method, and if you're listening Adobe, this would be a great addition to the tool, is that you can't really resize this preview image. I mean, one thing you can do is you can come over here, and if I can find it with my mouse, there, I can grab and squish this over. So you can get it a little bit bigger by doing that, but that's going to be limited by your screen size. It'd be great if there was like a plus and minus button over here, allows you to zoom in. So if you just need to correct a very small area, you'd be able to work on that. Currently, you can't zoom in like that, so that's not really a thing you can do. Okay, so when using this method, you just kind of place as many pins as you need to. You can even duplicate the same pin by option clicking and dragging. So if while I was dropping pins, let me go ahead and remove some of these. To remove a pin, if you drop too many pins or if you put it in the wrong spot, you just want to start over, you just select it, and then down here you click the minus button and you can remove that pin. Okay, now if you want to duplicate a pin, all you need to do is option, click and drag, and you can duplicate that pin using the same color over and over again. So this is one option you have for making corrections for the Colorize filter. It's not the greatest because it's not the easiest to work with, and there's a lot of trial and error that goes into doing it. Now, one problem that I'm having with it is that the color is bleeding into the skin tones, and that's causing a problem. So one thing you could do is just take the default, apply it to your image, and then create another neural filter targeting just the clothes, and then you can kind of mask out, just the clothing. You can have these two separate layers if you want. That's one approach you could use for this method. So I'm actually going to take that approach, and I'm not going to drop any pins right now, just so that my skin tone on the arms can look really good. Okay, so I'll leave it like that. And now we'll take a look at some of the output options, because these are some things that can also help you adjust the coloring after you've applied the filter. So if we look down here at the very bottom, we have this section right here that says output. And this is a great feature because it allows you to be non-destructive in your editing. We have the first option here, which is current layer. And let me move up my Photoshop here so you guys can see the drop down. The first option is current layer, and this one is a little destructive. It will apply all the colorizing directly to the current layer and overwrite the black and white information. But the other options will allow you to add new layers to your document, thus preserving the original. There is even a smart filter option that will convert your current layer into a smart object and the colorize into a smart filter, which will allow you to go back in and make changes without having to reapply the filter from scratch. We can talk more about smart filters in another video. Let me know your interest in the comments below. But in this video, we are talking about how to fix the colorizing effect. So before I select any of these options, there is one more new feature I want to show you that can help with the corrections. If you go back up here and scroll all the way to the bottom, under Output Options, there's a little checkbox that says Output as New Color Layer. This option will separate the colorizing data into a new layer with a color blending mode. Okay, so it separates the colorizing that it applied to your image from your image. So I got rid of my original image and it just leaves the colorizing that it had applied. And it automatically changes the output to new layer. So it's going to put this on a new layer and it's going to change the blending mode of that layer to color. If you'd like to learn more about blending modes, let me know in the comments. Now, the reason this is helpful is because now you can make more refined manual alterations to the coloring by editing this layer. But before I do that, let me show you that method I was talking about where you could do this twice, right? Let's say I wanted to colorize the shirt a different color. Okay, let's go ahead and turn this layer off. So what I would do is go back to my original layer and then go back to Filter, Neural Filters. And this time, I'm not going to worry so much about the skin tone. I'm just going to target the clothing. So I turn on Colorize. Now it's applied. So here I'll start dropping pins. So maybe let's grab that yellowish color, which is close to the original. And now the way it blends the colors is a little bit different. So sometimes you might need to play with, the shade of color that you're actually applying. Maybe add a little bit of brightness. Okay, and then over here, let's drop another pin. And over on this shoulder. Okay, it's really kind of not showing up in this area, so. And I'll drop another pin up here because that's still red. Okay, it's really bleeding into his forearm, but I don't really care about that because this is going to be a separate layer. I can kind of mask out the clothing if I want to. Let me go up here and try to get his collar. Okay, and I think that's looking good. So now I'll go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom. Again, I'm going to do the output as new color layer. And we'll click OK. Okay, and so for this one, let's go ahead and label it. I'm going to say this one is shirt. And we'll say this one is colorize. Okay, so maybe we'll put this one underneath that one. If you turn them both on, then they'll kind of blend together and it'll look kind of wonky. But what I can do is use layer masks to kind of blend this one over top of the others in just the specific area. So I can turn it on, select this one, and I'm going to hold down the Option key on my keyboard and click on this little layer mask down here. What that'll do is add a black layer mask. It's going to hide everything. If you remember with layer masks, black conceals, white reveals. So it's all solid black, so it's hiding everything. And then I can grab my paintbrush and I'll come in and I can just start painting with white on the layer mask. And I can just paint in just his shirt. But then this method will allow me to get the clothing that I want the color of, but then also not have it bleed so much onto the skin. Okay, sometimes I like to just go around the edges and the perimeter that I need. And then I can go into the layer mask itself and kind of fill in between. So if I come over to the layer mask, I can Option click on the layer mask. That shows me what I've been painting. And then I can see all the areas that are inside my perimeter, and I can just quickly clean those up without worrying too much about hitting the wrong thing. Can't we just Option click on the layer mask again? And there we have a yellow shirt without yellow arms. Now, another reason why this is so helpful is because you can then go in and make refined manual alterations to the coloring by editing the layers themselves. So let's zoom in here and I'll show you one issue I'm having is the Colorize did a good job picking a tone for his lips, but then some of that red kind of bled onto his hand a little bit. So what I can do is I can select this layer and I can grab my paintbrush. And I'll just make it a little bit smaller here. And what I can do, basically what I'm doing on this layer, if I just turn this layer off, all it is just smudges of color, right? So what I can do is I can come here, make sure I'm on the Colorize layer here, and I'm gonna Option. If I do Option, I get this little crosshair and I can sample colors. So I can sample the colors that it picked for skin tones. So let's sample like maybe here. And then I can come in and paint over top of the color that bled over here, right? And maybe sample this color and kind of paint over top of that red that bled. Okay, maybe some of this, kind of covering up some of that. Okay, there's a little bit on the chin, so I can grab some of this color, kind of bleed it into there. Maybe some of that over here. And I can look around to see if there are any other issues, like maybe it's kind of still black and white in this area, so I can sample up here, kind of paint over that. Maybe sample down here, paint over that. Okay, so this is another way that you can kind of correct colors after you've applied the filter, using that output as new layer option, that little checkbox, will allow you to really customize the colorizing that the filter did. And using the same method, you could change the clothing color. So if it didn't do a good job, you could come in and paint a completely new color on there. And since the color is on a new layer, if it just did a really bad job in a specific area, you could just erase it because the information is on a separate layer. And using this method is also a great way of correcting that teeth error that I mentioned earlier, where it looks like the red from the lips is bleeding into the teeth. You can use this method to kind of clean that up as well. All right, so there are a few ways you can correct the Colorize filter in Adobe Photoshop. I hope that helped. And keep asking us questions. We'd love to make more videos covering your specific topics. You're always welcome to comment on our videos and ask questions, or you can reach out to us on social media as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Here at the Visual Center, we don't just talk about making stunning images, we help you create them as well. If you're looking to turn your digital masterpieces into gallery quality prints, we've got you covered. Just go to thevisualcenter.com and check out our fine art printing services. Our team of experts will work with you to ensure that every print is a true reflection of your creative vision. So why let your art stay digital? Print it, frame it, and let it shine. Visit thevisualcenter.com today and take the next step in your photographic journey.